Hey, this is Mel, and this is another episode of Conversations with America. And I hope all of you are having a wonderful and great Tuesday. It's lovely here in the city of Houston, as the weather is quite nice. It's quite warm. Very beautiful day here in usually the weather I think is a little bit cooler than this, but it's, I would prefer a little bit more cold, but I will take this spring-like weather. It beats the heat anytime, and so I'm quite happy to take the springish weather. And of course, there's a lot of things going on in the news. A lot of things. Of course, there is the New Hampshire primaries taking place today, I believe it is. Yes, it's today. And so, of course, a lot of us will be paying attention to that this evening on the news, and a whole bunch of political stuff is happening with the candidates. And to be honest with you, I have not made up my mind as to who I am supporting. I can definitely tell you I am not in any way supporting Donald Trump. I don't agree with anything, really. I'm not going to say anything. There are I do share the concerns that he has for America in many ways. But as far as a politician, I think he is the worst thing that could have ever happened. It is like a prostitute becoming a nun. It's just out of place. It's out of sort. He's not diplomatic. He's not skilled at speaking. And not that the current president is either, but of course people think he is one of the greatest speakers in the 20th and 21st century, which that is so not the case. But there are a lot of reasons why I just cannot and would not vote for him. But anyway, I'm still undecided as to who I would vote for, because people are pulling out, and I'm still concerned with the whole eligibility of Cruz. So I'm not really sold on that. I still have questions, and I was a strong questioner of Obama, and that's because of my travels to Kenya when he was just the senator. I used to travel there to Kenya quite a bit, and I only recently have not returned there. So most of my travels are in Southern Africa, South Africa. But prior to that, I was traveling to Eastern Africa quite a bit. And when I would go to the Western Province, which is the province that his father was from, and I would travel there, they would tell me, of course, he was just a senator and he wasn't a presidential candidate, and they would say, this is the area where Barack Obama was born. So that's what they would say to me. They were like, this is where he was born, this is where he's from. And I would argue with them, no, he's not, he's an American, blah, blah, blah. And they would go at it with me and say, no, he's Kenyan, blah, blah, blah. Of course, when he started running for president, that all changed, because people knew politically that he could not be from Kenya and run for the presidency here in the United States. And so it's quite funny, and because people started changing their message, but still there was that lingering thing because of what I knew, not because of what people here in the States were saying, but because of having traveled there. So there was that lingering, aspect. Was he really eligible to run for that office, that great and high office in the political system here in the U.S.? And I had questions, and I have questions about Cruz. So no one has sold me on that he is actually eligible to run. And I expect him to be a politician. For people that are trying to sell him as the Pope of politics, the great Christian man, I believe that he has a lot of great Christian morals and all of that, but there are other things I'm concerned about. And I think you have to be a person that works with people, but at the same time, I want you to be independent in your thinking. With that all being said, and talking about all of that, one of the things I thought I would talk about, because so much is going on in the news with black Republicans and blacks who are not Republicans, who are Democrats. Some of them are very liberal. Some of them consider themselves to be conservative Christians, and sometimes it makes you wonder. But I thought about it. I was thinking, I said, there's this kind of misconception about black Republicans. So I wanted to do a podcast, and of course trying to keep it down to a few minutes. I'm already at 5 minutes. So to keep it down from being a very long podcast, because this is something I think you could bring on you could have a lot of different black Republicans to talk about this. And you would get a whole laundry list of things I think we would like for black Democrats and white Republicans to know about black Democrats. Things that people may not really think about, excuse me, but that are very important. And I think people should remember, first of all, for our black brothers and sisters who feel like if you are a Republican and you are black, that it takes away your blackness some kind of way. There is this kind of thought that if you are black and you are voting as a Republican, you cease to be black. But the truth is, being a Republican does not change our ethnicity. We are always black. That's who we are, what we are. Even when we say things like people are trying to act white or be white or talk white, I've never understood what that meant, to talk white. Because in truth, if you were to listen to blacks in the early 1900s, and even before then, many blacks, especially those of a certain upbringing, not always the most educated, but those who were of a certain upbringing, they were taught to speak a certain way. They were taught to try not even to speak in the Americanese, as I like to say, but they would speak almost more with a Victorian English, a Queen's English, in a way. So if you listen to blacks in the South back in the day, and there are recordings of blacks that you can listen to, and they were very articulate, very proper, very well spoken, even more so than their white counterparts many times. I've even listened to blacks who are not educated in the South speak, and many times they will choose to speak using the English way of speaking. For instance, we often laugh at older black people, because they can't speak well in the South, we think, and a lot of times they don't say the word medicine as we would say. They say medicine, and we will laugh at that, but actually it's more of an English way of saying the word medicine. I had a friend, my sister was dating a guy, and we were laughing because he didn't know that he was supposed to say Tuskegee Airmen. And so he would say Tuskegee. And I'm listening to the BBC one day, and I hear the reporter say the Tuskegee Airmen. And I just was floored, because I'm thinking, okay, so my friend who's from the South, or my sister's ex-boyfriend who's from the South, is speaking more of an English, as we would say, because we don't really speak English, we speak American, but he's speaking more of, or using the way they would say the word, in the English interpretation of the word, as opposed to the American needs of the word. And so black people have always been articulate people, and so I don't understand what we mean by, you're trying to be white, or you think white. No, we always are who we are. We're always black people. It doesn't change us from being our black heritage. It doesn't change that. Just because we have chosen to vote as Republicans, we don't become less black. We don't some kind of way become immune to the blackness, whatever that means. I don't know, because I've heard people say that, you think you're immune to the blackness. No, we're always black. It's our ethnicity. That is who we are, and we don't try to be something different. We are that. And another thing that black Democrats have to understand about black Republicans, we don't think that everything that white Republicans say is correct. Despite the misgivings, we don't agree with everything that a Republican says. Just because we may vote Republican does not mean that we believe that everything that comes out of a Republican's mouth is the truth or it's what's valid. we don't always think that way. In fact, what both black Democrats and white Republicans should know about black Republicans is that we are independent thinkers. We think for ourselves. We don't necessarily think always the way the party thinks. We have a mind of ourselves. We're not brainwashed, despite what black Democrats would say about black Republicans. We are not brainwashed. We come to this conclusion on our own, most part. And in fact, many Republicans today that you will find, black Republicans, many of them were at one point black Democrats. But as they watch things and they begin to rationalize things and think things through, because they are independent thinkers, they choose to vote Republican because it goes along with their thinking. But because they are independent thinkers, they don't agree with everything that the party says. We're just like every other Republican. That's why you have Tea Party Republicans, because they may not agree with the traditional or the modern sense of republicanism. And so, just like any other Republican, a black Republican is independent. And many are independent thinkers. And many of the new Republicans that you will find today, a lot of the younger generation, those who are in their 40s and younger, many of them at one point were Democrats, or they grew up in Democratic homes or Democrat homes. But they are now an independent thinker. They are thinking, I don't agree with that. I don't see that the way my family has seen that. I'm seeing things differently. So despite what everybody thinks, both black Democrats and white Republicans should know about black Republicans is that we are independent thinkers. And to try to box us in is damaging for both groups. Never try to box in black Democrats to think that we have to think a certain way. In fact, if you look at the way we're diverse in our thinking about the candidates. There are some blacks who are like gung-ho for Cruz. There are some who are gung-ho for Carson. There are some who are gung-ho for Rubio. There are some who are gung-ho, God forbid how, I don't know, for Donald Trump. But everyone has their own guy, and they are going to bat. Because why? They are independent thinkers. And a lot of the new Republicans that are coming in from the Democratic Party, the new black Republicans, they love Donald Trump because in many ways he is a Democrat in many ways. But he has certain values that ring with the new Republicans. So we're all different. You can't put us in a box. Because we're different. We're independent thinkers. We think for ourselves, and we don't buy into every idea that comes out of a Republican's mouth. In fact, we hate being generalized that all of you black Republicans think this way. It's not true. We don't always think that way, and we don't always think the way, as some of our black Democratic friends would say, we don't always think the way we are being brainwashed by white Republicans. It's not the case. Most black and almost really all black Republicans come to the point of view that they have independently. Despite what you want to think and say, oh, it's because you're brainwashed. Well, you know what? It could be the same for black Democrats. You may be a black Democrat because you've been brainwashed. If the shoe is going to fit on us, it's probably going to fit on you as well. Just as you want to be seen as an independent thinker, allow us to be an independent thinker. Now, here's another thing that may really get to people, both black and white, Democrat, Republican, is that as black Republicans, just because we are a Republican does not mean that we are immune to the injustice that still occurs in America to people of color. We're not immune to that. We don't think that, oh no, most of us. No, there may be some. Once again, I'm not going to generalize, but many black Republicans see it. We see it. But what we're concerned about is not about the small injustice over here. We are more concerned about the injustice that we're doing for ourselves. Now, I know that goes against the grain for many of our black Democrats, that you don't like the fact that's where we place our emphasis. But that's where our heart is, because we feel like we are doing ourselves an injustice when we take a gun in our own community and we kill our own people. To us, to many Black Republicans, that's a greater injustice. And we want to see that injustice taken care of before we're concerned about bringing justice to people outside of our community. Because we believe, most of the time, most Black Democrats believe that we have an obligation to heal our own community first. The difference between Black Democrats and Black Republicans is that most of the time Black Republicans are saying, let's look internally first. Let's heal the inside before we even worry about the outside. It's like looking at the body. If the inside of the body is sick, you can forget how well you dress the body up. It's not going to matter, because internally it's diseased, it's dying. And that's the way Black Republicans many times are thinking. That yes, we see injustice. We know that it's still happening, but we don't see it on the grand scale many times as our Black Democrats. And we're allowed to have those differences of opinion. But don't think that we don't feel that there is an injustice happening. We do. But we think there is a greater injustice that's happening within our own community. And we want to see that taken care of. We want to see us heal our own communities. And let's work with government to bring about change. Those areas of injustice, instead of marching, marching was great in the 60s and 70s, but we don't have to march. They had to march because they didn't have a place at the table. They couldn't go to City Hall. They couldn't go to law enforcement and take a seat at the table and deal with those issues with those officials. But we can. And that's another difference between Republicans and Democrats who are Black. Because the Republicans are saying, look, as opposed to marching and tearing up our cities and tearing up our stuff, let's go have a conversation with the officials. Let's actually build relationships with them. And let's work from within. And at the same time, let's heal our own communities. Let's get to the point where we're no longer dependent on the government. You'll find Black Republicans cannot stand welfare. Why? Because we see it many times as a dependency, a strategic setup to keep us enslaved and dependent on people who tire of us being dependent. It's easy for them to control us and to monopolize us, to make us do what they want, to control our ability to rise if we're dependent on them. And so what you'll find is many Black Republicans will say, look, let's do something about this welfare system. Let's do something about AIDS in our community. And I think that's across the board. Black Democrats, Black Republicans, we want to see our communities get better. It's just our way of doing things are different. It doesn't mean that we don't like our community, that we hate Black people. No, you have to understand it's just really our way of saying the process. We want to see a different process. So when we hear our Black Democrat brothers and sisters say that we are out of touch or we're too white or we're brainwashed, it doesn't help bring us together, because what you have done is you've pushed us away from the opportunity to actually work together, because we, just like everyone else, want to see the community healed. We want to see the community to be better. We want to see our young people stop dying of AIDS or having an increase of pregnancy, an increase of gifts that keep on giving called STDs. We want to see something change. We want to see a decrease. Did I say an increase of? We don't want to see an increase of those diseases. We don't want to see an increase of violence in our communities. We want to see the decrease, just like you. But sometimes our approach is different, and you have to understand that. And one of the things I find is very disheartening is the disrespect that often comes from our Republican or Democrat brothers and sisters to call us names. What is the point of that? Why call us all of these ugly names? It doesn't sell us well as a community. I'm not talking about as Republicans. It doesn't sell us well as Black people that we call each other these trashy names. And we're supposed to be these great journalists. And there's this one particular journalist. I'm quite disappointed in him because I'm thinking, this guy, I'm from the South. I grew up in the South. Rather, I was born a Yankee. I grew up in the South. I've lived in the South since I was like 3 years old, lived in Texas, lived in Fort Worth, Texas, and then in Houston, Texas. And I just have this opinion that Southern people are the best. Now, part of my family still lives up north, and some of them live towards the East Coast in Maryland and in the D.C. area. Some live in Chicago and Michigan. And I love them. They're wonderful. They're great people, but they're not Southerners. Southerners have this sense of respect. We can fight and we can disagree without ever being tacky. And so there's this one journalist. I don't even know if he's really a journalist, but I guess he's a journalist. And I'm watching him on the Twitter feeds, and he's just ripping into Crystal and Stacey and other black conservatives. Okay, rip into them without being disrespectful. Be a gentleman at all times. That's what Southern people do. We're ladies and gentlemen at all time, but it's ridiculous because we're ripping into our own people. Let's disagree. Let's sit down and have a great disagreement. But let's never break character. Let's never degrade each other to the point that we lose respect from other communities. Let's have our disagreements. You have your liberal way of thinking. We have our conservative, and we may never come to a place where we absolutely agree, but we can always agree on the fact that we will always respect one another. Another thing about Black Republicans, when we speak of equality for people of color, we're not just talking about Black people. We're talking about all colors. And sometimes it's even white people. We really want to see equality. Now, that may be brainwashing. Oh, well, we need to be concerned about Black people first. But one of the things I've learned is that when you're only concerned about your own community only, your advancement is very slow. It's when you think about other communities that you can network together and begin to pull each other up. I can't remember which person it was. It was some famous leader who said, yes, Chinese people love Black people. But when it comes to helping our people, we're going to help our people first. But we believe that Blacks should have equality. I mean, that's just human nature. No matter what ethnicity, you're going to want to support your community first. But when you work together as a team to help everyone have equality, it's better. It is. We may not agree on it, but it is. It is better. We don't like entitlement ideology. Black conservatives, for the most part, we don't really like the entitlement ideology because we believe it's another form of slavery and dependency. And I talked about this just a moment ago. We think we feel that. We just feel if we have this idea that we're entitled and we don't work for it, we don't labor for it, we don't earn it, then it actually causes us to be dependent on others who will never, ever free us to rise above their limitations of what we can do. That's what welfare is all about. It's about creating an environment that you put people in and you expect for them to stay there from generation to generation. But I have a problem when I see these young people in the stores on welfare. Flip out their card. Their nails are perfectly done. They have a knockoff purse. And the truth is, knockoff purses are not cheap either. And they pull out their iPhone. And then you see this little old lady who walks in with hardly any money. And you look at this young, able body with their knockoff Michael Kors purse or whatever they have, and their iPhone, and their perfectly done nails, perfectly done hair. And you think, you can get your lazy butt up and go get a job, get an education, pay attention in school so that you can go to college and go to university and get a respectable job so you can have respect for yourself and climb up higher than where you are. Because that person, that little old lady, that little old man, they have labored and they've done their job and they're deserving of their just reward. You haven't earned anything. So what are you entitled to? They've worked and they labored. So they're entitled to reap the benefits of their labor. But you're not just entitled to something just because you're black and you feel like, oh, we were drug over here. Okay, so we were brought over here. But the point is, I don't see too many black people trying to go back to Africa. There are benefits we have that people are coming over and they're taking our benefits, not because someone's giving it to them. It's because we're just sitting there saying, well, I'm entitled to it. Well, if you don't get up and go work for it, you won't get it. That's just the way it works in this country. You're not entitled to anything but to be free. To be free to create business. Free to learn. Learning is not done just in a classroom. Pick up a book. If we want to learn, turn off this trashy stuff that we're calling black entertainment. These movies that are not showing the best of who we are. Our women are paraded on Thursdays and Wednesday night like prostitutes and hookers. We drool over them. They're playing side chicks. That's the best of what we can do? What about being lawyers who are independent, faithful, loyal, committed, in relationship, women of integrity and grace? You want to build an empire? Make it one of grace, not of sleaze and deceit. We're showing the bad side of our community. What about the great side of our community? If we can write these beautiful movies about, we do it. Black people, we will write beautiful movies about white people, and then we write our own sitcoms and we're trashy. We write our own TV dramas and we go from writing about a wonderful princess to writing about the sleazy part of the black community. I don't know. And that breeds that sort of, I don't know. It just breeds this crazy thinking within our community. And we don't see the beauty and the positiveness of our beautiful community. It's just, we are a great people. But we have to start seeing ourselves as great. And it's not that anyone's going to make that happen for us. We do it to ourselves. We have to start thinking for ourselves. We have to start teaching our children, our young people, the generations that are coming. We're not even teaching them anymore about the history that we have made in this country, not about black history. I say this all the time. It's not about black history. Our history is not separate from the whole. Our history is American history. Put us in every single arena of American history. We are there. Settlement in the West, we are there. In the South, we're there. We fought in the Confederate Army. We're there. We fought in the Union Army. We've been designers. We've been creators. We've been inventors. I don't know about creators. There's only one creator, the great creator. But we've been inventors. We are great people. But we have to teach it to our children. Like Jewish people. I love what Jewish people do. They invest in the teaching in their children. They teach their children about their life, their history, all the way back to the Torah. It's a part of who they are. It's their legacy. It's their heritage. And we as black people, the entitlement that we have is to teach each other. That's what we're entitled to. Our kids are entitled to hear about their roles as a people in American history. That's entitlement. And they're entitled to hear that from us. Why do I need a white person to teach that to my niece and nephew? I don't need white people. My niece and nephew have a black mother. They have a black grandmother. They have a black aunt, a black grandfather, a black nana because the grandfather's been married a few times. They have these people in their life that can teach them. They don't need their school teachers to teach them about the contributions that their maternal side has made. That's our job. They're entitled for us to teach that to them. And despite what black Democrats may think about black Republicans, we don't hate black Democrats. And for the most part, we don't say disgusting things about our black Democrats. We don't call black Democrats vulgar names and trashy names. Because for one, we understand that many of those Democrats are our parents. They're our grandparents. They're our aunts and uncles. And we don't disrespect people like that. We don't find it respectful to call people out of their names and talk trashy to them. We find it respectful to sit down and have a real conversation, a real debate. That's what we do. But we don't have to lose character or lose respect for our community in order to have that discussion. So we don't hate Democrats. We don't hate white or black, but we oftentimes do hate the systems that are imparted into our communities by the Democratic Party. Yeah, that does happen. Sometimes we don't agree with the system that's run by Democrats. Just like Democrats don't agree with the systems that are run by Republicans. And that is the case. And we can debate that. We can discuss it. But we have to know when to pull back and say, you know what? Okay, the discussion is over because I'm not going to be disrespectful. I'm not going to be disrespectful. I'm not going to be disrespectful. We're going to move away from this because other things need to be said. Time is running long, but one more thing I want to say about black Republicans that black Democrats and white Republicans should know. Just because we don't agree with the political thinking of some of our black civil rights era politicians of today does not mean that we do not respect the contributions they have made to improve our civil rights. Black Republicans, we respect those who have paved the way for us. We may not agree many times with the policies and their ideology and their way of thinking. We may not agree with it. But it does not mean that we don't have respect for the sacrifices that they made for us. No, we respect them. And we're grateful to them for the contributions that they have made in our lives. And we know that they are a vital part of our lives. So those are a few things that you have to know that black Democrats and white Republicans should know about black Republicans. Some of us, not all of us, because you cannot generalize all of us. We all have different ways of thinking. But those are just some of the things that we don't hate our black Democrats. And we don't think that all white Republicans are good people. We know that some of them are bigots. Just like we know that some white Democrats are bigots. We're not naive. We know that there is human nature and some people are just ugly inside. But it doesn't stop us from loving other people. You know, we can't make people love us. We can't make people like us. But we have a conservative way of thinking. And we don't hate our black Democratic brothers and sisters. We love you. And we thank you. We appreciate you for being in our lives. And we thank you that you oftentimes in your debates, you give us something to think about. And if you would just talk to some of us, have a conversation, you would find out that we're nice people. And many were once Democrats. They weren't always Republicans. I mean, yeah, I pretty much grew up a Republican my whole life. But there was a time when I was younger, I had my little feminist moments, you know. And then I started really thinking, what do I really believe? And yeah, those little moments of being a rebel didn't last very long. But I do believe in equality. And I do believe in supporting the black community. I do. When there are areas where I can be a supporter, I believe in healing our community. And I believe that we are one of the most productive communities when we work together. Truly work together. As I said on my Facebook post recently, to the surprise of many people, I am a huge supporter of historically black colleges and universities because I think they are needed in the 21st century. Not for the traditional reason that they were years ago, but I think they're still valuable, and I love supporting them. I didn't attend one, but I love supporting them because I do believe in them. Hey, that's my conversation with you guys today, and hopefully I didn't make anyone too upset. And I'm sure there's some wonderful, beautiful Democrats who will absolutely disagree with me and think I am bogus. But trust me, I have plenty of Democrat friends. So whether you think I'm lying, I can assure you I'm not. You know, it's just we're all Americans, and that's what we have to be first, truly. And that's the real thing, is that we are always black. We are always American. We just happen to be also Republican. Love us for it. We love you for who you are and what you are. Hey, tell me what you think about this podcast. You can always tweet me. The Twitter handle is Global Relations. You can drop me a email, thbuzz@gmail.com, and tell me what you think about this podcast, what topics I can talk about, or how to make the podcast better. You disagree with me, what I said, please have a conversation with me. I think it's wonderful. Go out and have a conversation with someone. We're in that political season, so let's talk, and let's get to know one another. And let's, as Americans, we need to come together and we need to unite. Because if we don't, we will easily be taken over. Hey, God love you. I meant to say, hey guys, God loves you, and so do I. But anyway, have a blessed one. Take care, and talk to you sometime soon.